In today's video, we're going to be learning how to use the microinjection tool. Now, unfortunately, the camera is not working, so I won't be able to show you guys what it looks like from the inside, but we can see how to set up this apparatus here as well as how to navigate it. So this is our injection tool. It mainly consists in two major parts. First, we have the actual injection apparatus. These are the knobs that allow you to adjust it in the direction it moves in. And then we have this part here called the nanoject. This is the actual apparatus that allows us to control what amount we're injecting. And then you'll see it's hooked up to these two pedals down here. And if we zoom in, you'll see one of them is to fill, one of them is to empty or inject. This can also be done via the touch screen, which you'll see has four main sections. The main ones you're going to work with are manual and inject. So before we get into how to actually use this apparatus, it's important to understand all of its parts. Now for one, we're starting off with this part here. This is where we're going to insert the glass electrode to do all of our injections. So this is the main part that's making contact with whatever you're injecting on this base. Now we move over here, and the main three knobs that you have to understand are this one here, this one, and this one down here. You'll note that you're able to shift the injection tool back and forth because it can pivot on this pole. But let's say you're actually under the microscope and you're ready to do your injections, then these knobs come into play. This one back here moves it in and out. So you'll see as I twist it, it's kind of shifting back and then shifting forward. So this knob moves it this way and this way. This knob, on the other hand, you'll see as I twist it, it seems to slide forward and backwards. If I show you from the top, you'll see it moves this way, moves this way. So this knob moves it that way or towards you, away from you or towards you. Now this knob here, you'll see as I twist it, we're moving down and we're moving back up. So this knob up and down. You don't have to use any of these other knobs as long as you understand this one, and this one. Now you'll also see that it's sitting on this apparatus here, which down here has a knob that's switched on or off. This is a magnetic system, so when it's on, the magnet is on, which allows it to stay steady on this thing. If you were to shift this more backwards or more forward, then you would turn this knob off, and that would allow you to move the entire apparatus. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this. You shouldn't have to, because you should be able to set it up using the knobs and actually moving it side to side. If you really need to shift it though, make sure you support this body because it's a lot heavier than you think it is once the magnet turns off. So now let's get into the step-by-step of setting up this injection apparatus to do our injections. Now, when I'm first setting it up, I like to have it twisted out towards me so that we're not interfering with the actual microscope. So in a prior video, I taught you guys how to pull glass. This skill comes in handy because those same glass electrodes are what we're going to use to put into this apparatus. So you'll see we have the three that we pulled before, and I'm just going to pull one of them out. You want to be very careful that you don't break that really sharp tip there, because then we're going to lose everything that we need when it comes to injecting, and we're going to have to start completely over. So before we put this glass electrode into the injection apparatus, we're not going to put it in dry. We need to fill it with some kind of liquid so that we have some kind of buffer when we actually put in the other liquid that we care about. So what liquid do we usually put in here? The liquid that we initially work with is mineral oil. So you can get it from this tube here that's up on the shelf right above this microscope. But usually this syringe is full of it. We'll see here that it's a little bit empty, it appears, so I'm gonna fill it up with a little bit more. Okay, so I filled my glass electrode with mineral oil, and I made sure I filled it all the way to the end, and I made sure there were no bubbles inside. You want it to be a completely clean fill and no bubbles. Now we're gonna come to this apparatus, and I'm just going to loosen it a little bit, not too much, so that I can get this electrode in there. Now before I put the electrode on, I'm actually gonna come to this apparatus, go to manual, and I'm going to click empty until I see the tip come out the bottom. So I'm going to stop it, but you'll see that, hold on, let's get it in focus. You'll see that the tip has begun to come out of the bottom. The reason we want to empty it to that point is so that I can now take the needle and put it on using that tip to guide it. So I'll get it in focus. You'll see I slip it right onto there, and it should be able to just push right in, and you're gonna push it until you feel resistance. When you feel resistance, it's gone in as far as it possibly can, and you're just gonna tighten this back. So something you're gonna note with the needle is that once you put it on, the mineral oil begins to kind of drip out, and that's because you're creating the pressure by putting it onto this. So something I'll do is I'll go and grab a Kim wipe, and you want to be very careful doing this. I recommend doing it under the microscope, but you're just going to dab around the edges in order to pick up some of the mineral oil. Now, to remind you guys, I don't have the camera set up on the microscope, so I can't show you a super clear image, but this is what it looks like under the microscope. You'll see there's oil there, and you'll see the very pointy tip and the actual needle. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit on the tip so you can see how thin and how sharp it is. So once we load the needle onto the apparatus, we need to make sure the edge is not as thin as it is currently, and that's for several reasons. For one, it's really small when it's pulled, to the point where it could easily get clogged when you inject your samples, and then all the material that you're injecting gets caught into the machine. The other issue is that when it's that small, it's also very smooth on the edge, so it's a lot harder to get it into the actual sample. So something we do is we use this square here, and this allows us to cut it so that it's a bigger hole, so it's less likely to clog, and it also allows us to cut it at an edge so that we create a beveled tip that's a lot easier to puncture our samples with. So I'm going to try to show you guys what this looks like under the microscope. Okay, so it's a little bit blurry, but right now we're focused in on the edge of this square because I want you guys to notice that it has a kind of jagged edge. Now this is kind of like a serrated knife. You want to make sure when you're cutting your glass using this tool, you use this jagged edge because it allows you to create the beveled tip a little bit easier. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut the glass off camera, but I'll be able to meme for you guys what the actual step will look like, trying my best to record it in the microscope. Okay, so here's an example of a glass that has been trimmed. I'm going to try my best to show you guys how to do it under the camera, so I'm probably going to end up messing up the tip and making it a lot bigger than it's supposed to be, but just for the sake of you guys understanding what it looks like, you'll understand that when you actually do it yourselves, you don't want to cut it as thick as I'm going to show you. Okay, so you'll see I'm really close to the tip right now. You'll also see that I have the beveled edge, and what you want to do is you want to go in at an angle, and going in at that angle allows you to create that beveled tip. So I'm just gonna do a really rough cut to show you guys how easy it is to cut it. You do not want to cut it this high up, but you'll see that when I go at that angle, it makes it a lot easier to create that kind of curve that we see right now, and I'll zoom in to show you guys that. Okay, so as I said, I've cut this tip in a way where it's way too big to inject the samples that you'd actually be working with, but of course I did it because I wanted to show you guys what the process looks like. Now, another thing that we can get from this tip, despite it being too large, is the fact that you can kind of see the fact that it's cut at that angle. That is the angle I mean by a bevel tip. That is what allows you to properly inject your samples a lot easier than if the tip was just a very flat and round tip. So the next step is we don't want all of that oil to remain in there when we load it up with what we actually want to inject with. So you're going to periodically click and unclick the empty button until the machine beeps. So I have my finger on the empty button. I'm going to try my best to show you guys what this looks like under the microscope. But I'm going to click empty, and you'll see it start to run out. Pause for a second. Let it catch up. We're going to do it again. Empty, pause, let it catch up. And you'll see a bubble starting to form underneath the needle. What you can do is, just as I said before, go in with that Kim wipe and very carefully, while looking under the microscope, and I'm going to try my best not to break it while multitasking this for you guys. You're just going to go in with your Kim wipe and just dab off the oil. So you have already created your tip, you've cut it to size, and you've ejected most of the mineral oil. Now we can move on to the next step, which is filling it with the actual sample we care about. Now for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to fill it with something called zebrafish ringers, which is just a control that we use for the zebrafish injections. You may be using oxytocin inhibitor, or any other drug or whatever thing you're injecting into your fish. So what I'm just going to do very simply is take a piece of paraffin. A very small piece is fine. And I'm just going to put I'm going to put a small dot of the ringers onto this parafilm. Okay, so you can see that I have the tip submerged in our zebrafish ringers. And now I'm going to try my best to show you guys what it looks like when I click the fill button to fill it up with some of this liquid. So I'm going to click fill. I'm going to stop it. And you can see that some of the liquid slowly goes in as I press fill and I stop. Now, just like I did with the empty button, I'm going to do it in portions just to allow the liquid to catch up as it fills. Now, when you do your injections, you're likely not going to be injecting a lot of sample. So even what I have here should be enough, but I'll fill it with a lot just to be safe. The very last step before we begin injecting is making sure we set the settings on this injecting tool so that we're not injecting too much or too little of our sample. So to measure our amounts, we have this very special microscope micrometer, which you'll see once we open this up is just this microscope slide that has a ruler built into it. Now I don't know how well you're gonna see this. Let me see if I can put it up against a black background. But you'll see there's a little, like a small line right in that circle, and I'll show you under the microscope. But this basically allows us to measure exactly how much we want to load. So you'll see it's literally the tiniest ruler on this microscope. I can show you just how much I have to zoom in order for you to make it out clearly. But this is the microscope that we use with the microinjection tool in order to measure out our injections. Now, before we can use it, we want to load a drop of the same mineral oil that we put in the glass electrode initially in order to create something we can suspend our injections into. Now, unfortunately, this last part where I show you how to inject to put the liquid into the ruler to see what the size is, I was not able to do because between holding my phone and pressing these pedals, it was nearly impossible to record. But I can just show you guys roughly where you want it to be. So when you do your measurement injection, so you see we have our measuring slide on this microscope and we have a drop of oil on it. What we're going to do is we're going to exit this area and we're going to go to the injection area. Now you'll see that you can toggle the values on the volume per nanoliter area here. Each of these plus and minus signs correlates to a different tenths place. So you see if I press the plus button here, we go up here. If I press it here, we go up here, and same thing here. You want to just play around with these and keep injecting from your injection tool into the dots, and you want it to be oriented near the ruler until it fills up the area that you're interested in. Now, depending on your project and what you're injecting, the amount that you want the bubble to take up the space of is going to vary. So I'm not going to show you guys that part because of that. Also because between me holding my phone, injecting, and using the pedals, I can't show you guys a clear view. But that is a step that you should be able to navigate once you are established in your project and you've followed all of these steps to set up exactly how you need to set up.
Every video ends as every lab session should, with a good cleanup of your space. With that, thank you guys for watching and good luck in the lab.